Amid chaos at the airport,
Final
a
call for
millionaire's
flight
bag is
228
switched,
to
and
London.
destiny makes her his fake wife. Hello everyone, before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It is quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support truly means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let us get back to our main character. It all began on a stormy Friday night at JFK Airport. The storm had grounded flights, and tempers were running high. Travelers were shouting, children were crying, and the floor gleamed with a thin layer of rainwater that drifted in from the sliding doors. Among the chaos stood Claire Dawson, 26, clutching a scuffed leather suitcase and a sketchbook wrapped in tape. She looked small under the harsh white lights, her jacket damp, her fingers trembling as she checked her flight status again and again. Cancelled. Great, she muttered, forcing a smile that did not reach her eyes. She had spent her last $50 on that ticket, and the airline would not refund a cent. Around her, loudspeakers echoed with delayed announcements, each one another nail in her hope. Across the terminal, Ryan Hunter stepped through the security checkpoint, tall, composed, and clearly used to being obeyed. The CEO of Hunter Labs had just canceled his engagement to a socialite, and the tabloids were calling it the breakup of the year. His phone buzzed with endless notifications. "Do not show your face alone," his PR director had texted. But Ryan did not care. He needed to leave the city before the press found him again. And that is when it happened. A child chasing a balloon darted between them. Claire swerved, nearly tripping over a suitcase. Ryan turned, startled, his phone slipping from his hand. Their bags collided, tumbled, and rolled across the floor. The security alarm blared for a moment, flashing red lights across their faces. Claire bent down, cheeks flushed. "Oh my God, I am so sorry," she said. Ryan gave a tight smile, kneeling to grab what he thought was his bag. "No harm done," he replied, his voice calm but distracted. Their hands brushed briefly, cold skin meeting warmth. For a heartbeat, time slowed. And then the crowd swallowed them again. Claire hurried toward the exit, clutching his suitcase instead of hers. She did not notice the sleek silver initials, RH, embossed near the handle. Ryan walked the other way, phone pressed to his ear, unaware that the suitcase he carried held a battered sketchbook, 2 broken pencils, and a single handwritten note. "Keep drawing. It will save you. Adri." Outside, thunder rolled across the dark New York sky. Claire's cab splashed through puddles, while Ryan's black sedan pulled away from the curb. Both looked out their windows at the same lightning flash. Neither knew that this mistake, one careless mix-up at Gate B, would force them into a fake marriage within 24 hours. But something else happened that night. Something the airport cameras caught, and the internet would later not stop talking about. As Claire waited for a cab, she saw a homeless man being dragged away by security guards for sleeping near the automatic doors. Without thinking, she stepped forward and gave him her last $5 bill, the one she had saved for dinner. Someone filmed it. By morning, that clip would go viral. "Poor girl defends homeless man at JFK." And when the world realized that same girl later appeared beside millionaire Ryan Hunter, the comment section exploded. Back then, she had no idea. She was just a tired girl standing in the rain, clutching the wrong suitcase, whispering, "Maybe tomorrow will be better." Tomorrow would not be better. It would be unforgettable. The next morning, the sun broke through heavy clouds, turning the wet streets of Queens into mirrors of gold. Claire Dawson sat on the edge of a motel bed that smelled faintly of bleach and rain. Her eyes burned from lack of sleep. The viral clip had exploded overnight. Hundreds of comments, praise mixed with cynicism. She only helped him because the cameras were there. That poor girl deserves better. Claire ignored it. She had no idea who had posted the video, and she did not care. All she wanted was to return the wrong suitcase before someone accused her of theft. She set the case on the bed, hesitated, then unzipped it. Inside were crisp shirts folded with military precision, an expensive wristwatch, a stack of legal folders stamped Hunter Labs, and a small velvet box. She opened it slowly. Inside, the diamond ring sparkled like ice. Her throat tightened. Who was this man? The name tag inside the jacket answered her question. Ryan Hunter. The same name trending on social media for the most dramatic breakup of the year. Claire exhaled shakily. Oh no. This cannot be happening. At that very moment, across Manhattan, Ryan was standing in his penthouse office, staring at the suitcase full of Claire's belongings. A worn sketchbook, 2 broken pencils, and a note written in a woman's hand. Keep drawing. It will save you. Something about those words lingered in his chest longer than he expected. His assistant entered. Sir, the press conference starts at noon. We need your fiancée present for the announcement. Ryan closed the sketchbook. About that, she seems to have misplaced herself. By the time Claire arrived at the Hunter Grand Hotel, rain had started again. She clutched the suitcase to her chest as if it were evidence of her innocence. The lobby gleamed with marble floors and towering flower arrangements. She felt invisible among the suits and perfumes. Excuse me, she told the receptionist. I need to return this to Mr. Ryan Hunter. It was a mix-up at the airport. The woman frowned. Do you have an appointment? No, but security appeared almost instantly. One of them spoke into a radio. Possible intruder, carrying confidential items. Claire's heart pounded. Wait. I am just trying to... Then the elevator doors opened, and Ryan stepped out. He looked different from the night before, polished, unapproachable, the kind of man people moved aside for. Their eyes met. Recognition flashed across both faces. You, he said quietly. She swallowed hard. I came to return your bag. He motioned to the guards. It is fine. I will handle it. They backed off immediately. Ryan walked closer, his expression unreadable. You opened it. Claire stiffened. Yes, because I was trying to find your contact information. You could have done the same with mine. He held up her sketchbook. I did. Her stomach dropped. You went through my things? A faint smile touched his mouth. Then we are even. He took the suitcase from her hands, placed it on a marble table, and flipped it open. Everything was still neatly arranged, but his ring box was gone. He glanced up sharply. It is right here. Claire reached into her jacket and produced the velvet box. I did not steal anything. The tension between them thickened. For a moment, all that existed was the sound of rain against the glass. Then voices. Reporters. Cameras. Someone shouted, Ryan, is this your mystery fiancé? Ryan froze. His PR manager had followed the signal from his phone and arrived with a crowd of journalists. The flashes were blinding. Claire instinctively stepped back, shielding her face. In that instant, Ryan made a decision he would regret and remember forever. He slipped his arm around her shoulders and turned toward the cameras. His smile was practiced, effortless. Yes, he said clearly. Everyone, meet my fiancée, Claire Dawson. The room erupted. Microphones rose like weapons. Claire's breath caught in her throat. What did you just say? She whispered. Play along, he murmured through his smile. Please, just for a moment. The questions flew at them like bullets. When is the wedding? How did you two meet? Is this true love or a business deal? Ryan tightened his grip, still smiling for the cameras. You will find out soon enough. When the crowd finally dispersed, Claire tore herself from his hold. You cannot just use me like that. Ryan exhaled, his composure cracking. You have no idea how much trouble I am in. I did not plan this. But if you help me for a few days, I will make sure you never have to worry about rent again. Her eyes widened. You are bribing me? I am offering you an opportunity, he said quietly. 72 hours. After that, you can disappear, and your life will never look the same. Claire stared at him, anger and disbelief warring in her chest. The storm outside cracked with thunder again, as if the sky itself was warning her. But something in Ryan's gaze, a strange mix of pride, desperation, and honesty made her pause. She crossed her arms. 72 hours. That is it. Ryan nodded once. Deal. As she turned away, he watched her go, unaware that the real deal had already begun. The one destiny wrote the moment their suitcases touched. The next afternoon, Claire Dawson found herself standing in front of a mirror inside one of the most expensive boutiques in Manhattan. Her reflection looked like someone else entirely. The soft cream dress hugged her frame perfectly, her hair swept into a polished twist by a stylist who spoke in quick, clipped tones. A makeup artist dabbed foundation under her tired eyes. This is insane, Claire murmured. I am not supposed to be here. From across the room, Ryan Hunter adjusted his cufflinks, calm as always. It is just for a few days, he said. After the merger announcement, you can walk away with a new start. A new start? She repeated. You mean money? He met her eyes in the mirror. Sometimes money is what buys people their freedom. Claire turned away before he could see the hurt flicker across her face. The stylist pinned the last strand of hair and stepped back. Perfect, she said brightly. You could be on a magazine cover. Claire laughed under her breath. Yeah, on the page titled Wrong Woman in the Wrong Place. Later that evening, they sat in the back of Ryan's sleek black car, heading to the Hunter Foundation dinner. The city glowed outside skyscrapers, dripping with gold light, raindrops still clinging to the windows. Claire kept her hands clasped together on her lap. She could not shake the memory of the viral video comments, calling her a gold digger. Ryan noticed her silence. You do not have to prove anything to anyone, he said quietly. Easy for you to say, she replied. You have everything. I have a suitcase that does not even belong to me. He hesitated, then said, You have a sketchbook full of dreams. That counts for something. His tone was not teasing. It was gentle, almost sincere. For the first time, she looked at him not as a millionaire, but as a man who might be lonelier than she was. When they arrived at the dinner, the ballroom shimmered with chandeliers and designer gowns. Reporters swarmed at the entrance, flashing cameras. Ryan placed a hand on her back, steady and warm. Remember, we met at the charity art gala last spring, he whispered. You were painting live for the event. I was? He smiled faintly. You are a fast learner. The next hour passed like a dream she could not control. People greeted her with champagne and polite smiles. Ryan introduced her as the artist who changed his perspective on life. Each time, she smiled and nodded, her pulse hammering beneath her skin. During dinner, a woman leaned across the table. So, Claire, what was it like to catch Ryan Hunter's attention? That is quite the story. Claire forced a laugh. Honestly, it caught me instead. Ryan looked at her, a glimmer of amusement softening his usually guarded eyes. For a brief moment, their act almost felt real. After the dinner ended, they escaped to the rooftop terrace. The city below shimmered under the drizzle. Claire kicked off her heels, sighing. How do people breathe in those rooms? They do not, Ryan said. They perform. She looked at him. And what about you? Are you performing too? He paused, then answered, Maybe, but not with you. The honesty in his voice startled her. She turned away, pretending to watch the skyline. The wind caught a strand of hair, and he reached out instinctively, tucking it behind her ear. The touch was small, but her chest tightened anyway. I am not who they think I am, she said softly. Neither am I, he replied. A silence stretched between them, fragile but full of something unspoken. In the distance, thunder rolled again, echoing the rhythm of her heartbeat. When they returned to the hotel, Claire stopped by the elevator doors. Ryan, this deal of yours, what happens if it fails? His jaw clenched. It cannot fail. If it does, hundreds of people lose their jobs. My father's company dies with it. She nodded slowly. So I am not just your fake fiancé. I am your insurance policy. His expression softened. You are more than that. Even if you do not believe it yet. The elevator chimed. She stepped inside, but before the doors closed, he said, Tomorrow, there is a charity gala at the Hunter Arts Center. You will like that one. It is about helping people who have lost everything. She looked at him, searching for sarcasm. There was none. Then maybe for one night, she said. I can finally be myself. When the doors slid shut, Ryan stood alone in the hallway, the faint reflection of his own face on the metal surface. He whispered to no one. Maybe that is what I have been trying to do too. That night, Claire placed her sketchbook on the hotel desk and began to draw. Not skyscrapers or dresses, but Ryan's face, sharp lines, steady eyes, a hint of sadness he never let anyone see. When she was done, she closed the book and whispered, You are still a stranger, but maybe not for long. Outside, the rain stopped. The city exhaled, unaware that the line between pretending and feeling had just begun to blur. The next evening, the Hunter Arts Center buzzed with energy. Flashing cameras lined the red carpet, and a string quartet played under a canopy of lights. It was the charity gala Ryan Hunter had mentioned, the event that would seal the final investor signatures for his merger. But for Claire Dawson, it felt like a stage she never asked to stand on. She stepped out of the car wearing a black silk dress borrowed from the Foundation's wardrobe team. Her fingers trembled as she clutched a small silver clutch. Ryan appeared beside her in a tailored tuxedo, composed as ever. His hand brushed against hers, not quite a gesture of affection, more like reassurance. "Remember," he murmured, "tonight is about presence. Smile, keep your answers simple, and stay close to me." Claire forced a breath. "I will try not to ruin your perfect night. Just be yourself," he said, offering his arm. "That has worked better than anything else so far." Inside, the gala glowed with gold light and expensive laughter. Waiters moved through the crowd with champagne flutes, and walls were lined with abstract paintings worth more than her entire life savings. Claire's eyes lingered on one titled, "Lost Horizon." It was nothing but blue strokes on a white canvas. Yet she felt something in it, loneliness, hidden behind calm. Ryan noticed. "Do you like it? It feels like someone painted the sky after a storm," she said. He looked at her quietly, as if memorizing her words. "You see things most people overlook." "Oh." She turned away, embarrassed. "That is what artists do. We find stories where others see surfaces." A man approached them gray-haired, sharp-suited, the kind of person whose handshake was worth millions. "Ryan, my friend," he said, smiling for the cameras. "And this must be the fiancé the world cannot stop talking about." Claire's stomach nodded, but she smiled anyway. "It is lovely to meet you." The man laughed. "You have tamed the untamable. Congratulations." "Oh," Ryan smiled politely, but his jaw tightened ever so slightly. "Some things are not meant to be tamed. They are meant to be understood." For a moment, the older man hesitated, then nodded approvingly. "Well said." When he left, Claire whispered, "You are getting better at pretending." Ryan's voice lowered. "Maybe I am not pretending anymore." The words hung in the air between them, too soft for the microphones to catch, too dangerous for either of them to acknowledge. As the evening continued, reporters circled like sharks, snapping photos, recording every move. Claire did her best to follow Ryan's lead, laughing when he laughed, nodding at business talk she barely understood. Yet something inside her began to shift. She could see the weight he carried, the careful smiles, the rehearsed charm, the exhaustion hiding behind his eyes. Halfway through dinner, a young intern accidentally spilled wine on Ryan's sleeve. Everyone froze, waiting for the billionaire's anger. Instead, Ryan simply smiled, took the napkin from the boy's shaking hand, and said, "Accidents happen. Go enjoy the night." The crowd relaxed, impressed by his composure. But Claire saw something deeper, a man who was tired of being feared. Later, when the gala reached its peak, Ryan was called to the stage. The host announced, "Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Ryan Hunter will now deliver a few words about what this foundation means to him and his fiancée, Miss Claire Dawson." The spotlight found them. Claire froze. She had no idea she would be mentioned. Ryan leaned toward her, whispering, "Just stand with me." As applause filled the room, they walked to the podium together. Ryan's voice carried easily through the speakers. "This night is not about numbers or mergers," he began. "It is about the people who remind us why we build in the first place." He turned slightly toward Claire. "I met someone who reminded me that art and kindness are not weaknesses. They are strength." A murmur ran through the audience. Claire felt her throat tighten. She was not sure if he was still performing or confessing. When the speech ended, the audience rose in a standing ovation. Cameras flashed. Ryan turned to her, and for a heartbeat, their smiles met not as partners in a lie, but as two people caught in the same moment of truth. But the illusion shattered as soon as they left the stage. His PR manager rushed over, whispering urgently, "Ryan, the investors want photos of the ring. It is trending again." Claire blinked. "What ring?" The manager frowned. "The engagement ring, of course. The public needs to see it." Ryan's silence said everything. The ring in question was still in Claire's jacket pocket, the same one from the suitcase, the same one she had refused to wear. Her chest went cold. "You used me," she said under her breath. Ryan tried to speak, but she stepped back. "All this time, you were not trying to help me. You were trying to sell a story." Reporters noticed the tension, lenses turning toward them like eyes in the dark. Ryan reached for her hand, but she pulled away. "Do not," she whispered. "Not again." "Oh," and before anyone could stop her, Claire walked straight through the golden crowd and out the front doors. leaving him under the flashing lights and the weight of his own choices. Outside, rain began to fall once more, thin and cold. Her reflection rippled on the wet pavement as she whispered, "Maybe I was never supposed to fit in his world." Inside the ballroom, Ryan stood frozen on the stage, applause fading behind him, realizing too late that somewhere between pretense and reality, he had already fallen for the girl who had only wanted to return a suitcase. Rain poured over New York that night as Claire Dawson ran down the marble steps of the Hunter Art Center. Her heels splashed through puddles, the cold cutting through her thin dress. Behind her, flashes from the paparazzi chased like lightning, each click of a camera freezing her humiliation in time. By the time she reached the street, she was shaking partly from the rain, partly from anger. She flagged down a taxi, her voice trembling. "Queens, please." The driver glanced at her through the mirror. "You are that girl from the gala, right? The Millionaire's fiancée?" Claire stared out the window. "Not anymore." The cab pulled away, leaving the city lights behind. Inside the car, her phone buzzed endlessly with notifications. Her face was already all over social media again. Runaway fiancé storms out of Ryan Hunter's charity gala. Was the love story just a PR stunt? She turned off the phone and pressed her forehead against the glass. The city blurred into streaks of gold and gray. Meanwhile, inside the ballroom, Ryan Hunter stood alone near the podium. His PR manager was still talking, but he heard nothing. The applause had ended. The investors were whispering, and he could feel the story slipping through his hands. For the first time in years, he did not care about the deal. He walked out into the rain, ignoring the cameras. "Claire!" he called, but the street was empty. All that remained was the echo of her footsteps and the sound of rain hitting the pavement. Hours later, Ryan sat in his penthouse, the city glittering far below him. The diamond ring sat on the table, the same one she had refused to wear. He turned it between his fingers, the metal cold against his skin. His assistant entered quietly. "Sir, the merger papers need your signature before midnight." Ryan looked up. "Tell them it can wait." "Sir, that would mean—" "I said it can wait." He leaned back, closing his eyes. For the first time in years, he felt the emptiness of his own success. The fortune, the company, the fame, it all felt like glass, beautiful but hollow. And for the first time, he realized he wanted something real. The next morning, the internet was merciless. Every news outlet dissected the breakup. Some blamed Claire, others blamed Ryan. Hashtags trended for hours. But what caught everyone's attention was a single photograph, Claire leaving the gala barefoot in the rain, her shoes in one hand, her head held high. That image went viral faster than the engagement rumor itself. The girl who walked away from a millionaire. By noon, Ryan's office phone rang nonstop. Investors panicked. His communications team begged him to make a statement. Instead, he turned off his phone and left the building without a word. Across town, Claire sat in a small cafe near the art district. Her sketchbook lay open, pages wrinkled from the rain. She had drawn the scene from the night before the ballroom, the stage, Ryan's face half in shadow. A friend from the local gallery approached her table. "You could turn this into something powerful," she said. "People see honesty in your work. You should show it." Claire smiled faintly. "It is not honesty. It is heartbreak." "Heartbreak sells too," her friend replied gently. That evening, she rented a tiny studio in Soho, using the advance she had earned from a freelance design job. The space was cramped, but it was hers. She pinned sketches to the wall faces from the airport, the homeless man she had helped, Ryan's silhouette beneath a rain-soaked sky. The series took shape without her planning it. She titled it Mistaken Baggage. A week passed. The gallery owner who had seen her work called and offered to host a small exhibition. Claire hesitated. "No one will come." The owner laughed. "Oh, they will come. They always come for a story that feels real." On the night of the opening, Claire stood among her paintings, nervous and quiet. Strangers wandered through the room, murmuring praise. Every frame told a piece of her story, the chaos, the confusion, the fragile beauty hidden in mistakes. Then, through the hum of conversation, the crowd shifted. Cameras clicked softly. A tall figure in a gray suit stepped into the gallery. It was Ryan Hunter. For a moment, the world stopped moving. He looked at her the way he had at the airport, directly, silently, as if trying to find the right words. Claire crossed her arms, her voice steady. "You should not be here. The cameras will love this." "I did not bring them," he said. They followed me. They always do. Then maybe you should go back to your world and let me have mine. Ryan glanced around at her art, the sketch of the airport, the suitcase, the storm. He stopped in front of one painting, the one of him on stage with her beside him. "This one," he said quietly. "You made me look like someone worth believing in." "You were," she said softly, "until you made me feel like a prop." He exhaled. "You were never a prop. I just did not know how to be real until I met you." Silence hung between them, fragile but honest. Then he reached into his pocket and placed the diamond ring not on her finger, but inside a small glass case beside her first painting. "I came to return what I took," he said, "and to ask for another chance, even if all you can give me is forgiveness." Claire looked at the ring, then at him. "I do not know if forgiveness is what you need." He smiled faintly. "Maybe not, but it is what I hope for." The gallery lights reflected off the glass, casting a soft glow around them. People pretended not to stare, but every heart in the room felt the moment shift. As Ryan turned to leave, Claire called after him. "Ryan." He stopped. "Thank you for returning the ring," she said. "But the truth is, it never fit me anyway." He nodded once, understanding more in silence than words could carry. Then he walked out into the night, leaving the sound of quiet applause behind applause, not for money, not for status, but for something rarer, humility. Outside, the city lights flickered against the rain. Claire stood by the window, watching him disappear into the crowd, whispering to herself, "Maybe the wrong suitcase brought me exactly where I was meant to be." The following morning, New York woke up to headlines that surprised everyone. Ryan Hunter walks away from his own deal. The billionaire who said no to $1 billion. The merger had collapsed overnight, not because of scandal or failure, but because Ryan himself had withdrawn his signature. The statement he released was simple: no business is worth more than integrity. The media went wild. Some called it reckless, others called it brave. Investors panicked, employees speculated, and every business channel debated what had driven him to do it. But Claire Dawson, sitting in her tiny Soho studio, said nothing. She simply watched the story unfold, her heart caught between disbelief and something she could not name. Later that day, a knock echoed through her door. When she opened it, a delivery man stood there holding a small brown envelope. "For Miss Claire Dawson," he said. She signed, thanked him, and waited until he was gone before opening it. Inside was a simple note written in Ryan's unmistakable handwriting. "You once told me art finds stories where others see surfaces. Maybe it is time I learned to see that way too. Hunter Labs is now the Hunter Foundation. If you are willing, I want you to lead its community art program. No cameras, no press, no performance, just real work that matters." At the bottom was his signature and an address. Hunter Foundation Headquarters, 10 Amperes, M. Claire stared at the paper for a long time. A dozen emotions fought inside her skepticism: curiosity, anger, and something dangerously close to hope. By mid-morning, she stood outside the new office building. The logo had changed overnight. The word Labs replaced with Foundation. Inside, the reception area was full of volunteers, not executives. She spotted Ryan near the back, wearing rolled-up sleeves, talking with a group of young artists about a mural project for an underfunded school. When he noticed her, his voice caught slightly. "You came. I am only here to see if you actually mean it," she said. "I do," he replied. "For the first time in years, I mean every word." He led her through the office, past walls covered with sketches and project maps. It was nothing like the sterile corporate world she had seen before. It felt alive, real. One of the volunteers waved at her. "You are Claire, right? The artist who inspired all this?" Claire blinked. "Inspired?" Ryan smiled. "I told them about the girl who gave her last $5 to a stranger, about the woman who walked away from a world she did not belong to because she refused to sell her kindness." Her eyes softened. "You did not have to turn me into a myth, Ryan." "It is not a myth," he said quietly. "It is what reminded me I could still be human." The room went still. For a moment, the noise of the city faded, leaving only the sound of their breathing and the hum of fluorescent lights. Claire finally spoke. "If I take this job, it is because the cause matters, not because I am part of your redemption story." Ryan nodded. "That is exactly why I asked you." Weeks passed. The foundation grew quickly, funding art programs, community spaces, and scholarships. Claire ran her department with quiet confidence, mentoring students who had never held a brush before. She and Ryan crossed paths often, sometimes over coffee, sometimes at late meetings, but the air between them was different now. Softer. Respectful. One afternoon, she found him sitting in the foundation's rooftop garden, sketchbook in hand. "Practicing?" she teased. He smiled faintly. "Trying. It turns out drawing is harder than running a company." She sat beside him. "You are improving. The proportions are still terrible, but at least you are trying." He laughed, the sound lighter than she had ever heard from him. "I take that as a compliment." Silence settled comfortably between them as the city stretched below. "You know," Ryan said, after a while, "I thought losing everything would break me, but it did the opposite. I feel free." Claire turned to look at him. "Free to do what?" "To choose what matters," he said, "and to fight for it." The sincerity in his voice made her chest tighten. She looked away, focusing on the skyline glowing in the late afternoon light. "You should be careful, Ryan. You are starting to sound like an artist." "Maybe I am just finally living like one," he said. Their eyes met again, and this time there was no tension, only understanding. The city below hummed with life, but for a brief moment, it felt like the world had gone quiet around them. When Claire left the rooftop that evening, she looked back and saw Ryan still sitting there, the sketchbook open on his lap, his pencil moving slowly across the page. Later that night, she received a message from him, no words, just a photo of his drawing. A suitcase with a single sticker of a green palm tree. The caption read, "Every wrong turn brought me here." Claire smiled, closing her phone. For the first time since that chaotic night at the airport, she felt at peace. She did not know where their story would go next, but for once, it was not about money or fame or fixing the past. It was simply about two people learning how to begin again, one drawing, one act of kindness, one honest day at a time. 6 months later, spring settled over New York like a quiet apology. The city no longer felt like the same storm that had once swallowed Claire Dawson whole. The Hunter Foundation had become a living, breathing thing, murals, brightening gray neighborhoods, students painting their first canvases, and volunteers laughing as they carried paint buckets down the streets. Inside the main hall, sunlight spilled across the floors where a new exhibit was being set up. A banner read, "Open Hands, Community Through Art." Claire stood in the center, clipboard in hand, hair tied loosely, paint smudged on her wrist. For the first time in years, she looked completely at home. Ryan Hunter watched her from the doorway, his sleeves rolled up, a coffee cup in one hand. He had traded the sharp suits for something simpler. The world no longer called him the tech billionaire. Now they called him the man who gave his fortune away. And somehow that title finally fit. "Everything ready for the opening?" he asked. Claire smiled over her shoulder. "Almost. We are short on brushes, but no one seems to mind." He chuckled. "People with purpose never do." For a moment, they stood in the quiet hum of the room, watching a group of children painting the final corner of a massive wall mural. The design was hers, two hands passing a small suitcase between them. Ryan nodded toward it. "You really turned one mistake into a masterpiece." She looked at him, amused. "You mean our mistake?" He raised an eyebrow. "Fair point." As the day went on, donors, artists, and volunteers arrived to see the exhibit. Ryan gave a short speech, humble and sincere, crediting Claire for transforming the foundation into something alive. Cameras were present, but this time the attention felt different, real. No scandals, no performance. Just two people standing side by side for something that mattered. After the crowd thinned out, Claire walked onto the terrace to catch her breath. The city skyline shimmered in the fading light. Behind her, Ryan followed, carrying 2 cups of tea. He handed her one without a word. "Thank you," she said softly. "For what?" "For keeping your promise. No cameras, no games." He smiled. "It was never about pretending." "Not anymore." They stood there for a while, watching the sky blush into orange and pink. The wind lifted her hair, brushing it across her face. He reached out instinctively to tuck it back, just as he had months before. But this time, she did not pull away. "I never thanked you," he said quietly. "You gave me something I did not know I needed." "What is that?" "A reason to slow down." Claire looked at him, eyes soft. "And you gave me something too, a reason to believe again." The silence that followed was not empty. It was full of understanding, of forgiveness, of everything they had both lost and found. In the distance, the mural's fresh paint glimmered in the light. Two hands passing a suitcase, once a symbol of chaos, now a symbol of connection. Claire turned to Ryan, her voice steady but gentle. "You know, I used to think that mistake at the airport ruined my life." He smiled, eyes warm. "And now?" She let out a small laugh. "Now I think it finally started it." Ryan nodded, his gaze lingering on her a moment longer before he said, "Then maybe it was not a mistake at all." For the first time, she believed him. The wind shifted, carrying the sound of laughter and music from the hall behind them. The world felt new again, not perfect but real, and that, for both of them, was enough. A year later, the Hunter Foundation's annual charity event filled the same gallery that had once held Claire Dawson's first small exhibition. But this time, it was no longer just an art show. It was a celebration of every story that had begun with a mistake. Every person who had turned struggle into strength. The banner above the entrance read, "One Kindness Day, where every act matters." Claire stood near the entrance, greeting guests as they arrived. Her black dress was simple, her smile effortless. Around the room, her students guided visitors through murals and sculptures created by local communities. The air carried the scent of paint and spring flowers instead of the polished coldness of past corporate events. Ryan Hunter moved quietly through the crowd, shaking hands and listening to people's stories. He looked different now, calmer, lighter. The restless energy that had once driven him to chase headlines was gone. In its place was something steadier, peace. When he finally reached Claire, she teased him softly. "You are late to your own event." He smiled. "I was talking to the new interns. They told me you are tougher than their old art professors." She laughed. "Good. I want them to work hard. Kindness does not mean easy." They walked together through the hall, stopping at a display near the center. Behind glass sat the same worn suitcase that had started it all. On top of it rested the diamond ring, no longer a symbol of pretense, but of change. A small plaque read, "Mistaken baggage, the journey that found its way." Claire traced a finger along the edge of the glass. "It feels strange, seeing it there. Like part of someone else's life." "It was," Ryan said gently, "but it brought us here, and I think that makes it ours now." She looked at him, her voice quiet. "Do you ever wish things had gone differently?" He thought for a moment before answering. "If they had, I would still be chasing numbers instead of meaning. And I would never have met you." Her eyes softened, but before she could reply, a group of students called her over to take a photo. She smiled at Ryan before walking away, surrounded by laughter and gratitude. He watched her go, feeling something that was not quite longing and not quite pride, just gratitude for the life they had both rebuilt. As the evening went on, Ryan took the stage for a short speech. The lights dimmed, and the crowd quieted. "This foundation began with a mistake," he said, his voice calm and steady. "A mix-up, a wrong suitcase, a moment of chaos that turned into a lesson. I learned that real success is not about what we build, but who we become while building it. Tonight is not about me. It is about everyone who believes that a single act of kindness can rewrite a story." Applause filled the room. Claire looked up at him from the crowd, her heart swelling with something that went beyond admiration. It was faith. Faith in him, in herself, in everything they had endured. When the event ended, the guests drifted out into the warm night, leaving only a few lingering lights. Ryan found Claire standing by the mural of two hands passing the suitcase. She smiled. "You know, that drawing used to mean loss to me. Now it means trust." Ryan nodded. "Then we both finally learned the same lesson." He reached into his pocket, revealing a small envelope. "There is one more thing." Inside was a flight ticket to Florence, Italy, the art capital she had dreamed of visiting since she was a student. "The foundation can manage without us for a while," he said. "Maybe it is time to start the next chapter." Claire laughed softly, shaking her head. "You always find a way to surprise me." "Maybe that is my art form," he said. She looked at the ticket, then at him, her smile bright and sure. "Then let us go make something beautiful." The lights dimmed behind them as they left the hall, their reflection fading beside the old suitcase that had once carried a mistake and now carried a legacy. 6 months later, the morning sun rose over the city of Florence, washing its terracotta rooftops in gold. Bells from a nearby church echoed across the narrow streets as tourists filled the piazzas. Unaware that inside a small corner studio above the Arno River, a new story was quietly being written. Claire Dawson stood by the open window, the breeze brushing her hair as she cleaned paint from her hands. The walls around her were covered in canvases, landscapes, portraits, fragments of life. Each one told a part of the journey that had begun in the chaos of an airport years ago. The latest piece stood on an easel near the light, unfinished. A pair of hands holding a small suitcase, a green palm tree sticker shining at its center. Behind her, Ryan Hunter carried 2 cups of coffee, his sleeves rolled to his elbows, the morning light catching in his eyes. He had traded boardrooms for quiet moments, business calls for brushstrokes. "You are up early again," he said softly. "I could not sleep," Claire replied, smiling. "The colors kept talking to me." "Oh." Ryan set the cups down beside her and looked at the painting. "It looks like the end of something," he said. "Or maybe the beginning," she replied. "Every ending feels like both." He nodded, standing close enough for their shoulders to touch. For a while, they watched the city outside the bridge, the river, the sunlight flickering on the water. There was no rush, no noise, no headlines, just life. That afternoon, they walked hand in hand to the local gallery, where Claire's new exhibit was being unveiled. The title, printed across the entrance, read, "The Best Mistake." Inside, visitors moved slowly through the room, tracing her story through the paintings. The airport, the storm, the gala, the sketchbook, and finally, the mural of 2 hands passing a suitcase. One guest asked her, "Is it based on a true story?" Claire smiled. "Every part of it is true, especially the mistake." Ryan watched her from across the room, pride and warmth in his gaze. When she finished greeting the guests, he walked to her side. "You did it," he said. "You turned everything that went wrong into something right." She looked at him, eyes glimmering. "We did it." Later that evening, the gallery lights dimmed for a final toast. Ryan took her hand and stepped forward. "I have one more piece to add to your collection," he said. From his pocket, he pulled a small object wrapped in cloth. Inside was the original suitcase handle plate engraved with his initials, R.H., the one from years ago. He had kept it all this time. He placed it in her palm. "A reminder," he said, "that sometimes the wrong baggage can lead to the right destination." Claire laughed softly, tears catching the light. "You kept this?" "Of course," Ryan said. "It brought me you." The crowd applauded, and someone began to play a soft melody on a piano in the corner. As the music swelled, Claire rested her head against his shoulder. For the first time in her life, she felt the quiet certainty of belonging, not because of what she had gained, but because of what they had both learned to let go of. As the night faded, the camera of life panned back slowly over the gallery, the paintings, the laughter, the suitcase under glass, and Ryan's voice, calm and certain, echoed like a closing note. Sometimes love does not arrive on time. Sometimes it gets lost, delayed, or mistaken. But when it finally finds you, you realize it was never lost at all. It was simply waiting to be claimed.